The maid whispered, "She's poisoning your daughter," to the billionaire. He didn't believe her until the white foam was still on his daughter's lips when Josiah burst through the bedroom door. Little Miriam wasn't breathing. Her tiny chest was completely still. Her skin had turned the color of old paper, and her eyes were rolled back, showing only white. The teddy bear she never let go of had fallen to the floor. On the nightstand sat an empty glass with purple residue at the bottom, and his wife Rebecca was backing away from the bed with her hands covering her mouth. "No, no, 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 and oh." Josiah's scream ripped through the silence as he grabbed his 7-year-old daughter and shook her. "Miriam! Miriam!" Nothing. She was limp in his arms like a broken doll. Behind him, he heard Rebecca sobbing. "I just gave her the medicine. I just gave her what the doctor prescribed. Josiah, I swear, I don't know what happened." But someone else's voice was echoing in his head. A voice from 3 hours ago. The maid, Hannah, gripping his arm in the hallway downstairs, her eyes wide with terror. "Sir, please listen to me. Your wife is poisoning Miriam. I've seen her. Every night when you're at work, she gives her something that's not medicine. Please, you have to believe me." He hadn't believed her. He'd laughed. Actually laughed in her face, and told her she was being ridiculous. He'd even threatened to fire her for saying such terrible things about his wife. Now his daughter wasn't breathing. "Call an ambulance," he roared at Rebecca, but his hands were already reaching for his phone, fingers shaking so badly he could barely unlock it. The numbers blurred through his tears. 911. "Please state your emergency." "My daughter, she's not breathing. She's 7 years old. We need help now." The operator's voice was calm and steady, asking questions he could barely hear over the sound of his own heart breaking. How long had she been unconscious? Was she breathing at all? Any pulse? He pressed his fingers against Miriam's tiny neck the way he'd seen in movies. Nothing. Or maybe something. He couldn't tell. Everything was spinning. "Sir, I need you to start CPR. Put her on a flat surface." He laid her on the carpet, his hands trembling as he positioned them over her small chest. He'd never done this before. What if he hurt her? What if he pressed too hard and broke her ribs? What if she's already gone? "Josiah, let me." Rebecca reached for Miriam, but something dark and vicious rose up inside him. "Don't touch her." His voice came out like a snarl, and Rebecca jerked back as if he'd struck her. "Don't you dare touch her." "What are you talking about?" "I'm her mother." He started the compressions. 1, 2, 3. Miriam's little body moved with each push, but she still wasn't breathing. Why wasn't she breathing? "The ambulance is coming, sir. Keep going. You're doing great. Don't stop. Come on, baby girl," he whispered between compressions, tears streaming down his face and dripping onto her nightgown. "Come on, Miriam. Wake up for Daddy. Please wake up. Please, God, please." 15, 16, 17. He tilted her head back and breathed into her mouth. Her lips were cold. Once. Twice. Nothing. "Josiah, what did you mean don't touch her? What's wrong with you?" Rebecca's voice was rising now, hysterical. "Our daughter is dying and you're acting like I did something." He ignored her and kept going. Compressions. Breathing. Compressions. Breathing. His arms were burning. Sweat was pouring down his face, mixing with tears. He couldn't see. He couldn't think. All he could do was push and breathe and pray. "Did you give her something?" The words came out before he could stop them. "Did you give her something besides her medicine?" The silence that followed was so thick he could feel it pressing against his skin. "What did you just ask me?" "Answer the question, Rebecca." "How dare you? I would never. She's my daughter." "Then why won't she wake up?" A tiny cough. Josiah froze. He stared down at Miriam's face, afraid to hope, afraid to breathe. Another cough. Weak. Wet sounding. But real. "Miriam." He cupped her face with shaking hands. "Baby. Can you hear Daddy?" Her eyelids fluttered. Those beautiful brown eyes he loved so much opened just a crack, unfocused and confused. "Daddy." Her voice was barely a whisper, rough and painful sounding. He gathered her into his arms and held her so tight he probably hurt her, but he couldn't let go. Couldn't stop the sobs that were tearing out of his chest. "You're okay. You're okay. Daddy's got you. You're okay." "I don't feel good," she whimpered against his shoulder. "I know, baby. I know. Help is coming." Behind him, Rebecca was crying too, saying, "Thank God, over and over, but Josiah didn't look at her. Couldn't look at her. Because Hannah's words were still there in his head, louder now. "She's poisoning your daughter." The paramedics arrived 6 minutes later, though it felt like hours. They rushed in with equipment and questions, checking Miriam's vital signs, asking what she'd ingested when the symptoms started. Rebecca answered most of the questions, her voice high and shaky. She's been sick for 3 months. The doctors said it was some kind of chronic condition. They prescribed antibiotics and vitamins. I give them to her every day, exactly as directed. What medications specifically? One of the paramedics asked while another one put an oxygen mask over Miriam's face. Rebecca listed them off. Josiah had heard those names 100 times over the past months. They sounded right. They sounded normal. But what if they weren't the only things his daughter had been taking? We need to transport her immediately, the lead paramedic said, already lifting Miriam onto a stretcher. Sir, ma'am, one of you can ride with us. I'll go, Rebecca said quickly, but Josiah stepped forward. No, I'm going. Josiah, I'm her mother. I said I'm going. He didn't recognize his own voice. It was cold, hard, the voice of a stranger. Rebecca's face crumpled. You really think I hurt her? Oh my God. You actually believe I would hurt my own child? He didn't answer. He just followed the paramedics out to the ambulance, climbing in beside Miriam's stretcher. She was conscious now, but barely, her eyes drifting closed, and then opening again like she was fighting to stay awake. Don't sleep, baby, he whispered, holding her small hand. Stay with Daddy. Can you do that for me? She nodded weakly. The ambulance doors closed, shutting out the sight of Rebecca standing in the driveway in her silk nightgown, mascara running down her face. The sirens started wailing, and they pulled away from the house. The massive, beautiful house that had been featured in magazines, the house that was supposed to be their dream home. Now it felt like a crime scene. Josiah's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I tried to warn you. Check her medical reports. The symptoms don't match the diagnosis. Hannah. The maid. His hands started shaking again. He looked down at Miriam's pale face, at the oxygen mask fogging up with each shallow breath, and a horrible, terrible thought began forming in his mind. What if Hannah was right? What if the woman he'd loved and trusted for 7 years, the woman he'd married in a church full of flowers and promises, the woman who'd given birth to this beautiful child, what if she'd been slowly killing their daughter? No, that was insane. Rebecca loved Miriam. She was devoted to her. Every doctor's appointment, every late night when Miriam had a fever, every time she cried or needed comfort, Rebecca was always there. But she was also the one who gave Miriam her medicine every single day. She was the one who prepared her meals. She was the one who'd insisted they didn't need a nanny, that she wanted to take care of their daughter herself despite having all the money in the world to hire help. Sir, is there anything else we should know about her medical history? The paramedic's question snapped him back to reality. She's been sick for 3 months, he heard himself saying. Weakness, vomiting, stomach pain. The doctors ran tests but couldn't figure out what was wrong. They said it might be a digestive disorder. The paramedic frowned. And tonight's episode? I don't know. I came home from work and she was like this. That wasn't entirely true. He'd come home early because Hannah had called him, begging him to come home, saying it was an emergency. He'd walked in to find Hannah standing outside Miriam's bedroom door, tears on her face, and she'd grabbed his arm and whispered those impossible words. Sir, she's poisoning your daughter. I saw her tonight. She gave Miriam something from a brown bottle I've never seen before. Not the regular medicine. Something else. And Miriam started getting worse right after. Please, you have to stop her. He'd pushed past Hannah and run upstairs, thinking the maid had lost her mind. Rebecca wouldn't. She couldn't. But he'd burst into that room and seen Miriam convulsing on the bed, foam coming from her mouth, and Rebecca standing there with that empty glass in her hand. The ambulance pulled up to the emergency room, and everything became a blur of harsh lights and running footsteps and doctors shouting medical terms he didn't understand. They took Miriam away, and a nurse with kind eyes guided him to a waiting room and pressed a clipboard into his hands. Forms. Insurance information. Medical history. He sat there staring at the papers, his mind 1,000 miles away. His phone buzzed again. Rebecca, please call me. Please tell me she's okay. I'm coming to the hospital. Then another text. Josiah, I would never hurt our daughter. How could you think that? How could you believe some maid over your own wife? And another. We need to fire Hannah. She's trying to destroy our family. Can't you see that? He turned his phone off. An hour passed. Maybe 2. Josiah lost track of time, sitting in that uncomfortable plastic chair, staring at the double doors where they'd taken his daughter. Other families came and went. A teenager with a broken arm. An old man clutching his chest. A mother carrying a screaming toddler. Normal emergencies. Regular accidents. Not this. Not whatever this was. Mr. Josiah Thorne? He jumped up. A doctor in blue scrubs was walking toward him, pulling off latex gloves. How is she? Is she okay? Your daughter is stable. We've given her activated charcoal and started 4 fluids. She's sleeping now, but she's going to be fine. The relief that washed over him was so intense he almost collapsed. Thank God. Thank you. Can I see her? In a moment. But first, I need to ask you something important. The doctor's expression changed, became serious. Mr. Thorne, when we ran your daughter's blood work, we found something concerning. Very concerning. Josiah's chest tightened. What do you mean? There are elevated levels of arsenic in her system. Not enough to be immediately lethal, but consistent with long-term exposure to small doses over an extended period. The waiting room tilted. Josiah grabbed the back of a chair to keep from falling. Arsenic. Yes. It's a poison. The symptoms match what you've described. The chronic illness over 3 months, the stomach pain, the weakness. Mr. Thorne, your daughter hasn't been sick. She's been poisoned. The world stopped making sense. Arsenic. Poison. His 7-year-old daughter had been poisoned. How? Where would she get arsenic? The doctor's eyes were steady on his face. That's what we need to figure out. It's possible it's environmental, old paint, contaminated water. But given the consistent exposure over months and the acute episode tonight, he paused. We're required by law to report this to the authorities. Child Protective Services will need to investigate. Of course. Yes. Whatever you need to do. Josiah's voice sounded far away, like it was coming from someone else's body. There's something else. The doctor pulled out his phone and showed Josiah a photo. We found this in your daughter's stomach during the imaging. It's a pill. Partially dissolved, but still identifiable. It's not any medication that was prescribed to her. Josiah stared at the image. A small white pill with markings he didn't recognize. What is it? We're still testing it, but it appears to be a compound medication. Not commercially available. Something that would need to be specially prepared. Specially prepared. By someone who knew exactly what they were doing. By someone who wanted it to look like a chronic illness instead of poisoning. Josiah's phone was buzzing again in his pocket, but he didn't reach for it. He knew who it was. Rebecca, calling and texting, playing the part of the worried mother. But the maid's words were screaming in his head now, impossible to ignore. She's poisoning your daughter. I need to see Miriam, he said hoarsely. Of course. Follow me. They walked through the double doors into the pediatric ward. The hallways smelled like antiseptic and sadness. The doctor led him to a small room where Miriam lay sleeping in a hospital bed that looked way too big for her tiny body. Machines beeped softly, monitoring her heart rate, her oxygen levels. And 4 drip fed clear liquid into her arm. She looked so small, so fragile. Josiah pulled a chair up beside her bed and took her hand, careful not to disturb the 4. Her fingers were warm now, not cold like they'd been before. Her chest rose and fell in steady, even breaths. She was alive. But for how long? If he'd come home even 15 minutes later tonight, would she still be here? How many times had he kissed her goodbye in the morning, gone to work at his company, sat through meetings about profits and acquisitions and stock prices, while at home his wife was slowly killing their daughter. If it was true, if Hannah was right. But the evidence was right there in Miriam's bloodstream. Arsenic. A specially prepared pill. Months of mysterious illness that no doctor could explain. His phone buzzed again. This time he pulled it out and looked at the screen. Rebecca, the police just came to the house. They're asking questions about Miriam. What's happening? What did you tell them? He stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. Part of him wanted to call her, to demand answers, to scream and rage and ask how she could do this. But another part of him, a colder, more careful part, knew he needed to be smart about this. If Rebecca was really poisoning Miriam, then confronting her now would just give her a chance to destroy evidence, to come up with lies, to manipulate him the way she'd been manipulating him for months. I'm sorry, honey. I don't know what's wrong with Miriam. The doctors are running more tests. That's all he said. Nice. Neutral. Giving nothing away. The response came immediately. I'm coming to the hospital right now. No. Stay home. Miriam needs rest. I'll call you when she wakes up. Josiah, I need to see my daughter. Tomorrow. She's sleeping. The doctors said no visitors until morning. That was a lie, but he needed time. Time to think. Time to figure out what to do. A soft knock on the door made him look up. A woman in a business suit stepped in, holding a badge. Mr. Thorne? I'm Detective Sarah Kimball. I need to ask you some questions about your daughter's condition. This was really happening. His perfect life was falling apart, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Of course, he said quietly, not letting go of Miriam's hand. Detective Kimball sat down across from him, pulling out a notepad. The hospital contacted us about the arsenic poisoning. I understand this has been going on for about 3 months. We thought she was just sick. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. Who has regular access to your daughter? Who prepares her meals, gives her medication? The answer stuck in his throat like broken glass. My wife, Rebecca. She takes care of Miriam full-time. And you? I work. A lot. I own a tech company. I'm usually at the office from 7 in the morning until 8 or 9 at night. Shame burned through him as he said it. While he'd been building his empire, someone had been destroying his daughter. Anyone else? Nanny. Babysitter. We have a maid. Hannah. She cleans and helps around the house, but Rebecca does all the child care. Detective Kimball wrote something down. Has anything unusual happened recently? Any conflicts? Arguments? Josiah hesitated. This was it. The moment where he either protected his wife or protected his daughter. There was no middle ground anymore. The maid came to me today. She told me she thought Rebecca was poisoning Miriam. The detective's pen stopped moving. When was this? About 3 hours before Miriam collapsed. I didn't believe her. I thought she was crazy. His voice cracked. I should have listened. What exactly did she say? She said she'd seen Rebecca giving Miriam something that wasn't regular medicine. Something from a brown bottle. She begged me to stop her. And you didn't? I thought she was lying. Or delusional. Rebecca is Miriam's mother. Why would she hurt her own child? Detective Kimball's expression didn't change. Mr. Thorne, I'm going to be honest with you. Cases like this are more common than you'd think. Munchausen syndrome by proxy. A caregiver makes a child sick to get attention, sympathy, to play the role of the devoted mother. Sometimes it's for financial gain. Life insurance. Inheritance. Josiah felt sick. We don't need money. I'm worth $40 million. It's not always about need. Sometimes it's about control. Power. Attention. She paused. Does your wife have access to your daughter's trust fund? The question hit him like a punch to the stomach. Yes. Rebecca was the co-trustee on Miriam's $20 million trust fund. The fund that would be fully accessible when Miriam turned 18. Or immediately if something happened to her. If Miriam died, Rebecca would inherit everything. Oh my God, he whispered. His phone buzzed again. Rebecca, Josiah, please. You're scaring me. What's going on? He showed the message to Detective Kimball. Don't respond yet, she said. I need to ask you something else. Have there been any other incidents? Times when your daughter got suddenly worse or seemed to have a setback in her recovery. Josiah thought back over the past 3 months. There had been so many ups and downs. Days when Miriam seemed better, almost normal. And then she'd have a terrible night and end up vomiting, crying in pain, weak and pale. It came in cycles, he said slowly. She'd start to improve, and then she'd get worse again. Rebecca always said it was the nature of the illness. That it was unpredictable. And these worse episodes, when did they typically happen? Usually. He stopped, his mind racing. Usually in the evening. After Rebecca gave her the nighttime medicine. The detective nodded like this confirmed something she'd already suspected. Mr. Thorne, I need you to do something for me. I need you to act normal. Don't let your wife know we've spoken. Don't let her know we found arsenic. Can you do that? You want me to just pretend everything's fine? While she might try again. Your daughter is safe here. We're going to put a guard on her door. But if your wife knows we're onto her, she could destroy evidence. Flee. We need to catch her in the act. Catch her? You want to use my daughter as bait? No. I want to build a case strong enough that she can never hurt Miriam again. That means we need evidence. We need to search your house, your wife's belongings. We need to find where she's getting the poison, how she's administering it. And we need you to keep her calm and unsuspecting while we do that. Every protective instinct in Josiah's body screamed at him to say no. To grab Miriam and run. To never let Rebecca near her again. But the rational part of his brain knew the detective was right. Okay, he whispered. What do you need me to do? Detective Kimball stood up. Go home. Act like tonight was just a scary medical emergency, but Miriam is fine now. Tell your wife the doctors still don't know what's wrong. Keep everything normal. We'll get a warrant and search the house tomorrow while she's here at the hospital visiting Miriam. What if she figures it out? What if she runs? We'll have officers watching the house. If she tries to leave or destroy anything, we'll know. Josiah looked down at his sleeping daughter. How was he supposed to leave her? How was he supposed to go home and lie next to the woman who'd been slowly killing her? I can't, he said. I can't be in the same room with her. Not now that I know. You have to, Mr. Thorne. For Miriam. This is the only way to make sure your wife pays for what she's done. A nurse came in to check Miriam's vitals, and Detective Kimball stepped out into the hallway. Josiah watched the nurse adjust the four, check the machines, make notes on a chart. All so professional. So calm. Like the world wasn't ending. When the nurse left, Josiah leaned forward and pressed his forehead against Miriam's small hand. I'm so sorry, baby girl, he whispered. Daddy should have protected you. Daddy should have known. She stirred slightly, but didn't wake. His phone lit up with another message. Rebecca, I can't wait until tomorrow. I'm coming to the hospital now. I need to see her. His heart started racing. He typed back quickly. The doctors won't allow it. She needs isolation because of possible infection. Please just wait until morning. I promise I'll call you the second she wakes up. 3 dots appeared, showing Rebecca was typing. Then they disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, okay. But I'm not sleeping until I know she's all right. I love you both so much. I love you too, he typed, and it felt like swallowing poison. He sat there for another hour, just watching Miriam breathe. Around midnight, a different doctor came in, a woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Mr. Thorne? I'm Dr. Abigail Chin. I've been assigned to your daughter's case. I wanted to update you on her condition. Is she going to be okay? She's stable. The activated charcoal helped absorb some of the toxins, and the 4 fluids are flushing her system. But Mr. Thorne, I need to be honest with you. If this poisoning had continued for much longer, the damage to her organs might have been permanent. Her liver shows signs of stress. Her kidneys too. The words hit him like physical blows. Permanent damage. His 7-year-old daughter. How long does she need to stay here? At least a week. Maybe more. We need to monitor her closely and make sure all the arsenic is out of her system. Dr. Chin paused. I understand the police are involved. That's good. Whoever did this to her needs to be stopped. She's my wife, Josiah heard himself say. The woman who gave birth to her. I still can't believe it's real. Dr. Chen's expression softened. I've been a pediatrician for 30 years, Mr. Thorne. I've seen things that would break your heart. Parents who hurt their children for reasons I'll never understand. But I've also seen parents like you, who love their kids more than anything and would do anything to protect them. Hold on to that. Your daughter is going to need you to be strong. After she left, Josiah finally forced himself to stand up. He kissed Miriam's forehead, careful not to wake her. Daddy has to go home for a little while, he whispered. But I'll be back first thing in the morning. I promise. A security guard was already stationed outside her door when he left. Detective Kimball's doing. The drive home felt surreal. The streets of the city looked the same as always. The gate to his estate opened automatically. The mansion stood there in all its glory, lights glowing warm and welcoming. But it wasn't home anymore. It was the place where his daughter had been poisoned. Rebecca met him at the door, still in her nightgown, her face swollen from crying. Thank God you're home, she sobbed, throwing her arms around him. I've been going crazy. How is she? What did the doctors say? Josiah made himself hug her back, made himself act like everything was normal even though his skin was crawling. They're still running tests. She's stable. Sleeping. Can I go see her tomorrow? They said maybe in the afternoon. They want to monitor her in the morning. Rebecca pulled back, searching his face. Josiah, what happened tonight? 1 minute she was fine, and then she just started convulsing. It was terrifying. I know. He kept his voice steady. Did she eat anything unusual today? Drink anything? Was it his imagination, or did Rebecca hesitate for just a fraction of a second? No, nothing unusual. Just her regular meals and medicine. What medicine did you give her tonight? The same antibiotics and vitamins the doctor prescribed. The same ones I always give her. Rebecca's eyes were wide and innocent. Why? Do you think the medicine made her sick? I don't know. Maybe. She reached for his hand. Josiah, I would never hurt our daughter. You know that, right? I would die before I let anything happen to her. He looked into her eyes, those beautiful green eyes he'd fallen in love with, and tried to see the truth. Was she lying? Or was Hannah wrong? Was there some other explanation? But then he remembered the arsenic, the specially prepared pill. Miriam's tiny body convulsing. I know, he lied. I'm just tired. I need to sleep. They went upstairs together, and Josiah forced himself to lie down in their bed. Rebecca curled up next to him, her head on his chest like she'd done 1,000 times before. I was so scared tonight, she whispered. I thought we were going to lose her. Me too. We're going to get through this. Whatever's wrong with Miriam, we'll fix it. We'll find the best doctors. We'll try every treatment. Money is no object. Right. Her breathing slowly evened out, and eventually she fell asleep. But Josiah lay there wide awake, staring at the ceiling, his wife's head still resting on his chest. This woman had carried Miriam in her body for 9 months, had given birth to her, had nursed her and changed her diapers and stayed up through countless sleepless nights. And then she'd slowly poisoned her. Why? The money? The attention? Some sick compulsion he couldn't understand? His phone vibrated silently on the nightstand. He carefully reached for it without waking Rebecca. A text from Hannah. Is Miriam okay? I've been praying all night. She's alive. Thank you for warning me. I'm so sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I was afraid. I thought you wouldn't believe me. I should have believed you. You might have saved her life. There was a long pause before her next message came through. Sir, there's something else you need to know. I found something in Mrs. Rebecca's bathroom. A brown bottle hidden in the back of her medicine cabinet. I took a picture before I called you tonight. An image appeared on his screen. A brown glass bottle with a handwritten label. Arsenic trioxide solution. Handle with extreme care. Josiah's hands started shaking so badly he almost dropped the phone. There it was. The proof. The evidence that would destroy his wife and save his daughter. Where is this bottle now? He typed. Still in her bathroom. I didn't touch it. Just took the picture. Don't touch it. Don't let her see that you know. The police are getting a warrant tomorrow. Yes, sir. I won't say anything. He deleted the text thread and put his phone down, his heart pounding so loud he was sure Rebecca would wake up. But she just kept sleeping peacefully beside him, her breathing soft and steady. Like she hadn't tried to murder their child just hours ago. Josiah closed his eyes and prayed for morning to come quickly. Prayed for the strength to keep acting normal. Prayed that tomorrow the police would find what they needed to put Rebecca away forever. But most of all, he prayed for Miriam. That she would wake up. That she would recover. That somehow, after everything, she could still have a life worth living. The night stretched on forever, and Josiah didn't sleep at all. He just lay there in the darkness, trapped in bed with a monster wearing his wife's face, counting down the hours until he could escape. At 5 a.m, his phone buzzed with a new message. Detective Kimball, Warren approved. Team will be at your house at 9 a.m. Keep your wife calm and cooperative. 3 more hours. He could do this. He had to. For Miriam. At 6:30, Rebecca woke up and immediately reached for her phone. I'm going to the hospital, she announced. I don't care what the doctors said. I need to see my daughter. Let me shower first. I'll drive you. No, you should rest. You look exhausted. I'll drive myself. Panic spiked through him. He couldn't let her go alone. What if she tried to get to Miriam? I want to come, he said firmly. Just give me 15 minutes. While he was in the shower, he heard Rebecca on the phone in the bedroom. Yes, I need to speak to Dr. Chun. About my daughter, Miriam Thorne. I see. And what room is she in? Patient privacy, I understand, but I'm her mother. No, that's fine. I'll just come in person. She was trying to get information. Trying to figure out Miriam's status. Why would an innocent mother need to do that? Why wouldn't she just trust that her husband would tell her the truth? Unless she was checking to see if the poisoning had worked. Josiah got dressed quickly, his mind racing. He had to keep Rebecca away from the hospital until the police searched the house. But how? When he came out, Rebecca was already dressed and putting on makeup. Actually, he said carefully, the doctor called me this morning. They want to do some more tests on Miriam and asked if we could wait until this afternoon to visit. Something about not interrupting her treatment schedule. Rebecca's hand froze with the mascara wand halfway to her eye. They called you at 6 a.m? They said it was important. What kind of tests? More blood work. Imaging. They're still trying to figure out what's wrong. She stared at him in the mirror, and for just a second, Josiah saw something flicker across her face. Something cold and calculating. Then it was gone, replaced by concern. "Okay," she said softly. "If that's what the doctors think is best. But I'm going crazy just sitting here. Maybe I should make Miriam some of her favorite cookies for when she's feeling better." "That's a nice idea." Rebecca smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You know what? I think I'll go to the store and get fresh ingredients. Make it special. Do you need anything while I'm out?" She was going to run. Josiah could feel it in his bones. She sensed something was wrong, and she was planning to disappear before the police came. "Actually, I was hoping we could spend the morning together," he said, walking up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. He made himself kiss her neck, even though it made him want to vomit. "We've both been so stressed. Maybe we could just be together for a little while. Before we go to the hospital." It was the right thing to say. Rebecca turned in his arms and kissed him, deep and desperate. "I love you so much," she whispered against his lips. "I'm so glad Miriam has you as her father. So glad I have you." They made it downstairs just as the doorbell rang. Josiah's heart stopped. It was only 8:30. The police weren't supposed to be here until 9. Rebecca was already walking toward the door. Who could that be so early? Wait, but it was too late. She'd already opened it. Detective Kimball stood on the doorstep with 4 uniformed officers behind her. "Mrs. Rebecca Thorne? I have a warrant to search your house." The expression on Rebecca's face would haunt Josiah for the rest of his life. For just one moment, her mask slipped completely. No more loving mother. No more devoted wife. Just pure, cold rage. Then she looked at Josiah, and he saw the exact moment she understood. He'd betrayed her. He'd chosen Miriam over her. And she would make him pay for it. "Of course, Detective," Rebecca said smoothly, stepping aside. "Search whatever you need. We have nothing to hide." But her eyes, locked on Josiah's, said something very different. "This isn't over. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth." The police officers spread through the house like water finding cracks in a dam. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floors, their radios crackled with static, and their gloved hands touched everything. Rebecca's perfect home. The mansion she'd spent 3 years decorating with imported furniture and original artwork was being torn apart piece by piece. And she just stood there in the foyer, watching it happen with a small, cold smile on her face. Josiah couldn't stop staring at her. This woman. This stranger wearing his wife's skin. "Can I make anyone coffee?" Rebecca asked pleasantly, like the police were dinner guests instead of investigators. "I just bought this wonderful Ethiopian blend. Very smooth." Detective Kimball didn't even look up from the clipboard she was holding. "No thank you, Mrs. Thorne. Please remain in the living room where we can see you." "Of course." Rebecca walked past Josiah without meeting his eyes and settled gracefully onto the white leather sofa. She crossed her legs, folded her hands in her lap, and looked like she was posing for a magazine photo shoot. Beautiful. Composed. Completely calm. It was terrifying. Josiah's phone buzzed. The hospital. He answered it immediately, turning away from Rebecca. "Mr. Thorne? This is Nurse Patricia. Miriam woke up about 20 minutes ago. She's asking for you." Relief flooded through him so powerfully his knees went weak. "Is she okay? How does she feel?" "Tired and a little confused, but her vitals are good. The doctor wants to speak with you when you get here." "I'm on my way right now." He hung up and turned to Detective Kimball. "My daughter is awake. I need to go to the hospital." "Of course. Officer Williams will drive you." She glanced at Rebecca. "Mrs. Thorne, I'll need you to stay here while we complete the search." Rebecca's smile tightened just a fraction. "Am I being detained? You're free to leave. But if you do, we'll note that in our report." "I see." Rebecca uncrossed and recrossed her legs. "Then I suppose I'll stay. Josiah, please tell Miriam that Mommy loves her very much and I'll see her soon." Josiah couldn't make himself respond. He just walked out the door, his skin crawling from the way Rebecca had said Mommy. Like it was a normal word. Like she hadn't spent 3 months poisoning the child she claimed to love. Officer Williams was young, maybe 25, with kind brown eyes. He didn't try to make small talk during the drive, which Josiah appreciated. He just navigated through the morning traffic while Josiah sat in the back seat, his hands shaking, his mind racing. Miriam was awake. His little girl was awake. But what was he going to tell her? How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her mother tried to kill her? The hospital parking garage smelled like gasoline and old coffee. Officer Williams walked him all the way up to Miriam's room, where the security guard from last night was still stationed outside the door. "She's been asking for you every 5 minutes," the guard said with a small smile. "Kid's got spirit." Josiah pushed open the door, and there she was. Sitting up in bed, her hair a mess of tangles, dark circles under her eyes, but alive. Awake, looking at him. "Daddy." Her voice was hoarse and weak, but it was the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard. He crossed the room in 3 steps and wrapped her in his arms, careful of the 4 lines and monitors. She felt so small, so fragile, like if he let go she might disappear. "Hey, baby girl," he whispered into her hair. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. My tummy still hurts. And I'm really thirsty." She pulled back to look at his face, her big brown eyes confused. "What happened, Daddy?" "I don't remember. I was in my room, and Mommy gave me my medicine, and then everything got really scary and blurry." Josiah's throat closed up. He couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. A hand touched his shoulder. Dr. Chun had come in quietly. "Miriam, sweetheart, your daddy and I need to talk for a few minutes, okay? Can you be brave for us?" Miriam nodded, though her little hand tightened on Josiah's shirt. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised. "I'll be right outside the door. You can see me through the window the whole time." He stepped out into the hallway with Dr. Chun, positioning himself where Miriam could see him through the door's small window. She waved at him, and he waved back, his heart breaking into smaller and smaller pieces. "Mr. Thorne, we've completed more comprehensive tests overnight," Dr. Chun said quietly. "The arsenic levels in Miriam's blood are even higher than we initially thought. This has been going on for at least 4 months, possibly longer." For months. That was before the mysterious illness had even started. Before the first doctor's appointment. Before Rebecca had started playing the role of the worried, devoted mother. How is that possible? How did none of the other doctors catch it? Arsenic poisoning can mimic a lot of other conditions. And if the doses are small and spread out, it's easy to miss unless you're specifically testing for it. Dr. Chun paused. "There's something else. We found evidence of other substances too. Small amounts of ipecac syrup. That's what makes people vomit. It would explain the chronic nausea and why Miriam kept getting worse every time she started to improve." Josiah felt like he was falling down a deep, dark hole with no bottom. She was giving her poison to make her sick, and then more poison to keep her from getting better. "It appears that way, yes." "Why?" The word came out as a broken whisper. Why would anyone do that to a child? To their own daughter? Dr. Chen's expression was infinitely sad. "I can't answer that, Mr. Thorne. But I can tell you that Miriam is strong. Her body is young and resilient. With time and proper care, she should make a full recovery. Should. There's a small chance of long-term liver or kidney damage. We won't know for certain until we do more tests. But I'm optimistic." Optimistic. What a strange word to use when talking about a poisoned 7-year-old. "When can I take her home? Not to the same house, I hope." "No. Never again." Josiah looked through the window at Miriam, who was watching cartoons on the TV mounted to the wall. She looked so normal. So innocent. She had no idea her whole world was about to be ripped apart. "I'll find us somewhere else. Somewhere safe." "Good. She'll need at least a week here, maybe 2. And then months of follow-up care. Physical therapy. Probably psychological counseling, too. Whatever she needs. Money is no object." Dr. Chin nodded and left him alone in the hallway. Josiah took a deep breath, put on the biggest, fakest smile he could manage, and went back into the room. "Daddy, can I have a popsicle?" Miriam asked hopefully. "My throat hurts. Let me ask the nurse." He pressed the call button, and a different nurse appeared a minute later. Young, cheerful, with purple scrubs covered in cartoon butterflies. "What can I do for you, sweetheart?" "Miriam wants a popsicle." "Is that okay?" "Absolutely. What flavor?" "We have cherry, grape, and orange." "Cherry." Miriam's face lit up, and for just a moment she looked like a normal kid excited about a treat instead of a poisoning victim in a hospital bed. The nurse brought back 2 cherry popsicles and even gave one to Josiah. They sat there together eating frozen sugar on sticks, and Josiah tried to memorize every detail of this moment. The way Miriam's tongue turned bright red. The way she giggled when the cold made her teeth hurt. The way she kept talking even with her mouth full, telling him about the dream she'd had where she was a mermaid princess. Normal. This was what normal felt like. This was what he'd been missing while he worked 80-hour weeks building his empire. His phone buzzed. "Detective Kimball. I need to take this, baby." Keep eating your popsicle. He stepped into the hallway again and answered. Did you find it? We found several things, Mr. Thorne. The brown bottle Hannah photographed was exactly where she said it would be, in your wife's bathroom cabinet. We also found a notebook hidden in her closet with dates and dosages written down. She was keeping detailed records of how much poison she was giving Miriam and when. Josiah's vision went dark around the edges. He had to lean against the wall to keep from falling. She documented it. She kept notes like it was a science experiment. There's more. We found correspondence between your wife and someone named Dr. Marcus Webb. He's not a licensed physician. He lost his medical license 10 years ago for unethical practices. But he's been supplying your wife with various substances and advising her on dosages. Where is he? We're working on that. He's been using encrypted email and routing through multiple servers. But we'll find him. Detective Kimball's voice softened slightly. Mr. Thorne, I need to ask you something difficult. Did your wife have any reason to want your daughter dead? Life insurance? Inheritance? Miriam has a $20 million trust fund. Rebecca is the co-trustee. If something happened to Miriam, he couldn't finish the sentence. The money would go to your wife. Yes. What about you? Do you have a will? Of course. If I died, everything would go to Miriam. And if she died? Oh God. If she died, it would all go to Rebecca. The silence on the other end of the line said everything. We're bringing your wife in for questioning, Detective Kimball finally said. She's being arrested right now. Is she fighting it? No. She's still sitting on that white sofa, smiling. She asked if she could finish her coffee first. Something cold slithered down Josiah's spine. Rebecca was too calm, too composed. People who got caught didn't act like this. Unless, what if she has a backup plan? He said suddenly. What if she expected this? We've confiscated all her electronics, her phone, her laptop. We have officers watching the house. She can't contact anyone or destroy evidence. You don't know her like I do. Rebecca always has a plan. She's been playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. Mr. Thorne, we have physical evidence. We have her notebook. We have the poison. She's not getting out of this. But Josiah couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That this was all going too smoothly. He hung up and went back into Miriam's room. She'd fallen asleep again, the half-eaten popsicle melting in a cup on her tray table. Her face was peaceful, innocent, trusting. She trusted him to keep her safe. And he'd failed her for 4 months while Rebecca slowly poisoned her. Never again. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You made a mistake. His blood went cold. He showed it to Officer Williams, who immediately radioed it in to Detective Kimball. Could be anyone, Williams said, but his hand had moved to his gun. Probably just someone trying to scare you. Another text. You should have believed me when I said I loved you both. Now you'll see what real love looks like. That's her, Josiah whispered. That's Rebecca. But I thought you said she didn't have her phone. Williams was already on his radio, talking fast to someone on the other end. Then he turned to Josiah, his face pale. She had a second phone. A burner. Hidden in her bra. She activated it during processing. Where is she now? In custody. In a holding cell at the station. She can't hurt anyone. But the texts kept coming. Did you really think I'd let you take Miriam away from me? Did you think I'd just go to prison quietly? I told you, Josiah. This isn't over. Watch the news. Josiah's hands were shaking so hard he could barely hold the phone. Officer Williams grabbed the TV remote and switched from cartoons to a news channel. The headline at the bottom of the screen made his heart stop. Breaking. Anonymous tip claims billionaire Josiah Thorne has been abusing his daughter for months. Police investigating. What? Josiah stared at the screen in horror. That's insane. She did this. Rebecca did this. The news anchor was reading from a prepared statement. According to sources close to the family, 7-year-old Miriam Thorne has been in and out of hospitals for months with mysterious illnesses. An anonymous caller contacted police this morning claiming that the child's father, tech mogul Josiah Thorne, has been physically and emotionally abusing the girl, and that her mother Rebecca Thorne was trying to protect her. This is insane, Josiah shouted at the TV. They arrested her. She's the one who poisoned Miriam. But his phone was already ringing. His lawyer. His publicist. His business partner. Everyone calling at once, demanding to know what was going on, asking if the allegations were true. She's framing me, he said to Officer Williams, who looked almost as shocked as Josiah felt. She knew she was going to get caught, So she planted a story to make it look like I'm the abuser and she's the victim. Another text from Rebecca. Who do you think they'll believe, Josiah? The devoted mother who's been desperately trying to save her daughter? Or the absent father who works 80 hours a week and barely knows his own child? His phone rang. Detective Kimball. Mr. Thorne, I need you to stay calm. Stay calm. She's telling the whole world I abused my daughter. I know. We're working on it. But right now, I need you to not talk to anyone. Not the press, not your friends, not anyone. Do you understand? How did she even make those calls from a holding cell? She made them before we arrested her. Set up automated messages to be sent to news outlets and posted on social media. It's all lies, Mr. Thorne, and we can prove it. But until we do, you need to keep your head down. Josiah looked at Miriam, still sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that her face was probably on every news channel in the country by now. That people were calling her father a monster. That her mother had just destroyed both their lives with a few carefully timed lies. I want to see her, he said. I want to see Rebecca. That's not a good idea. I don't care. I need to look her in the eye. I need to understand why. There was a long pause. I'll see what I can do. 2 hours later, Josiah was sitting in a cold, gray room at the police station with Detective Kimball beside him and 2 other officers by the door. The table in front of him was scratched metal. The walls were bare concrete. Everything smelled like industrial cleaner and despair. The door opened and Rebecca walked in. She was wearing an orange jumpsuit. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore no makeup. She should have looked defeated. Broken. Instead, she looked radiant. Hello, darling, she said sweetly, sitting down across from him. Did you miss me? Josiah's hands clenched into fists under the table. Why? Why what? Why did you poison our daughter? Why did you try to kill her? Rebecca tilted her head, studying him like he was a particularly interesting bug under a microscope. You really don't know, do you? After 7 years of marriage, you still have no idea who I am. Then tell me. She leaned forward, her green eyes bright and cold. Do you remember the night we met? That charity gala where you gave that speech about education and opportunity. What does that have to do with? You walked past me 3 times that night, Josiah. 3 times. And you never even looked at me. I was invisible to you. Just another pretty girl in a pretty dress at a party full of pretty girls in pretty dresses. I don't understand. I had to make you see me. So I spilled my drink on your shoes. Do you remember that? How clumsy I was. How embarrassed. She laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. I practiced that spill for weeks. The exact angle. The perfect amount of liquid. The way I'd apologize and look up at you with those big, innocent eyes. Josiah felt sick. Our whole relationship was a lie. Not a lie. A performance. And I was brilliant at it, wasn't I? The sweet, kind woman who loved you for who you were, not your money. Who wanted a simple life and a family. Who made you feel like a man instead of just a bank account. She smiled. I studied you, Josiah. I learned everything you wanted in a wife, and I became that person. But why? If you just wanted money, you could have divorced me. Taken half of everything. Half! Rebecca's eyes flashed with anger. Why would I settle for half when I could have it all? The prenup your lawyers made me sign was very clear. If we divorced, I'd get almost nothing. A few million. Pocket change compared to what you're worth. So you decided to kill me and Miriam? Kill you? Oh, darling, no. I love you. The way she said it made his skin crawl. I was going to kill Miriam slowly. Make it look like a tragic illness. You'd be devastated, of course. Broken. And I'd be there to comfort you. The grieving mother who'd lost everything. You'd hold on to me even tighter. Probably get me pregnant again to fill the void. Josiah couldn't breathe. Couldn't process what he was hearing. And then one day, maybe a year or 2 from now, you'd have a terrible accident. Fall down the stairs. Drive off a cliff. Something tragic and unexpected. And I'd inherit everything as your grieving widow. She leaned back in her chair, looking satisfied. It was a perfect plan. You're insane. I'm practical. There's a difference. Rebecca examined her fingernails, which were unpolished and bitten down from stress. But then you had to go and believe that stupid maid. I knew Hannah was a problem. She was always watching me, always suspicious. I should have fired her months ago. Hannah saved Miriam's life. Hannah ruined everything. For the first time, Rebecca's mask cracked. Real anger flashed across her face. Do you know how hard I worked on this? How carefully I planned every detail. I spent months researching poisons, finding Dr. Webb, calculating the exact doses to make Miriam sick but not too sick, making sure the symptoms looked like a natural illness. And it was working perfectly until that meddling woman stuck her nose where it didn't belong. Detective Kimball spoke up for the first time. "Mrs. Thorne, everything you're saying is being recorded. You understand that, right?" Rebecca laughed. "Of course I do. I'm not stupid. But it doesn't matter. You think anyone will believe I actually said these things? My lawyer will claim I was coerced, that I'm traumatized and confused from being arrested, that I'm taking the fall for my abusive husband." She turned back to Josiah, and her expression softened into something almost like tenderness. "The thing is, I really did grow to love you. In my own way. You were kind to me. You made me laugh. You gave me a beautiful life. If you'd just been satisfied with what we had, if you hadn't needed a child so badly, none of this would have happened. You're blaming me for wanting a family? I'm blaming you for changing the plan. I could have been happy just the two of us. But you insisted on having a baby. And then once Miriam was born, you loved her more than me." Rebecca's voice turned bitter. "You were supposed to love me the most. That was the deal. But instead, you started working less, spending more time at home, playing with her, reading her bedtime stories. Do you know how that felt? Watching you love someone else more. She's our daughter. She's a mistake." Rebecca stood up, and the officers by the door moved forward. "And mistakes need to be corrected. Even if I go to prison, Josiah, even if I spend the rest of my life behind bars, you'll never feel safe again. Every time Miriam gets sick, you'll wonder. Every time she coughs or vomits or seems weak, you'll ask yourself if I somehow got to her. If I had help on the outside. If my plan is still in motion." "Get her out of here," Detective Kimball ordered, and the officers grabbed Rebecca's arms. She didn't resist. She just smiled at Josiah as they led her toward the door. "Sweet dreams, darling. Give Miriam a kiss from Mommy." Then she was gone, and Josiah was alone with Detective Kimball in that cold gray room. "Are you okay?" the detective asked. "No." His voice sounded hollow. "I'm never going to be okay again. What she said about you never feeling safe, don't let her get in your head. We're going to make sure she can never hurt Miriam again." But Josiah knew Rebecca was right. The damage was done. Even with her in prison, even with all the evidence and the confession, he'd spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, wondering if there was more poison hidden somewhere, more plans in motion, more ways his wife, his ex-wife, could reach out from behind bars and destroy what was left of his family. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Rebecca Thorne's lawyer claims she was wrongfully arrested, calls evidence fabricated. It was starting. The media circus. The battle for public opinion. Rebecca's backup plan kicking into gear. And somewhere in a hospital bed, Miriam was sleeping, completely unaware that her mother had just confessed to trying to murder her for money. How do you come back from that? How do you make a 7-year-old understand that the woman who sang her lullabies and kissed her goodnight was slowly poisoning her to death? Josiah put his head in his hands and finally let himself cry. Not the quiet, dignified tears he'd shed at his father's funeral or his mother's memorial service. Real sobs that shook his whole body. Ugly, desperate, broken sounds that he couldn't control. Detective Kimball put a gentle hand on his shoulder, but didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. No words that could make this better. After a long time, Josiah pulled himself together. Wiped his face. Stood up on shaky legs. "I need to get back to Miriam." "Of course. Officer Williams is waiting outside to drive you. Thank you. For everything. For believing me. We follow the evidence, Mr. Thorne." The evidence was very clear. She walked him to the door. "Your wife is going to prison for a very long time. I promise you that." But as Josiah walked out of the police station into the bright afternoon sunlight, he couldn't shake Rebecca's final words. "Even if I spend the rest of my life behind bars, you'll never feel safe again." She was right. The real torture wasn't what she'd done. It was knowing that somewhere, in some dark corner of his mind, she'd live forever. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. 3 days passed like a nightmare Josiah couldn't wake up from. The news stations played the story on repeat. Rebecca's lawyer, some expensive shark in a $1,000 suit, went on every talk show he could find, spinning a tale about a devoted mother being framed by her powerful, controlling husband. They showed old photos of Rebecca volunteering at children's hospitals, hugging sick kids, smiling that beautiful, fake smile. They found people who barely knew her to go on camera and say what a wonderful person she was. Rebecca would never hurt a child, some woman from her book club said tearfully. She has the biggest heart of anyone I know. Josiah threw the remote at the TV screen. It bounced off without breaking anything, which somehow made him even angrier. He was sitting in Miriam's hospital room, watching her sleep for what felt like the 1,000th time. The doctors said she was improving. The poison was leaving her system. Her liver function was getting better. Her kidneys were responding to treatment. But she still looked so small in that big hospital bed. So fragile. And she kept asking about her mother. "When is Mommy coming to visit?" she'd asked that morning, her voice hopeful and innocent. "Is she still mad at me?" "Mad at you?" "Baby, no. Mommy's not mad at you." "Why would you think that?" Miriam had looked down at her hands, picking at the hospital bracelet on her wrist. "Because I've been sick so long. Sometimes when I threw up, Mommy would get this look on her face. Like she was tired of me being sick. Like maybe if I tried harder, I could be better." Josiah's heart had shattered into even smaller pieces than he thought possible. "Miriam, listen to me. You being sick was never your fault. Never. You're the bravest, strongest girl I know. Then why won't Mommy come see me? How do you answer that? How do you tell a 7-year-old that her mother is in jail for poisoning her? That the person who was supposed to protect her was actually trying to kill her? Dr. Chin said they needed to tell her the truth soon. That children were resilient, but they needed honesty to heal. That keeping secrets would only make things worse. But Josiah couldn't do it. Every time he opened his mouth to explain, the words stuck in his throat like broken glass. A soft knock on the door made him look up. Hannah stood in the doorway, holding a small stuffed rabbit. "I'm sorry to bother you, sir. I just wanted to check on Miriam. I brought her something." Josiah gestured her inside. Hannah tiptoed over to the bed and carefully placed the rabbit next to Miriam's pillow. It was handmade with button eyes and floppy ears, clearly sewn with love and care. "I made it myself," Hannah whispered. "I thought she might want something soft to hold on to when she wakes up." "That's very kind of you." "Thank you." Josiah studied the woman who'd saved his daughter's life. She was maybe 40 years old, with tired eyes and calloused hands. She'd worked for them for 2 years, cleaning their house, doing their laundry, staying invisible and quiet like good help was supposed to do. And she'd been braver than he was. She'd risked her job, her livelihood, everything to tell him the truth. "I should have listened to you sooner," he said quietly. "You listened when it mattered. That's what counts. How did you know? What made you suspect Rebecca?" Hannah sat down in the chair beside him, her movements slow and careful like someone who'd learned not to take up too much space. "At first I didn't. Mrs. Rebecca was always so kind to me. She treated me like a person, not just the help. She'd ask about my day, remember my daughter's name, give me extra money around the holidays." Hannah's voice went soft. "But then I noticed little things that didn't add up." "What kind of things?" "The medicine bottles would change. Mrs. Rebecca told me Miriam was on antibiotics, but I'd see different bottles in the trash. Brown glass bottles with no labels. And the way she'd time everything, she'd only give Miriam the special medicine when you were at work. When you were home, it was always the regular prescriptions from the pharmacy." Josiah closed his eyes. All the signs had been there. He'd just been too blind, or too busy to see them. Then one night about a week ago, I forgot my phone and came back to the house late. Around 10 o'clock. I had a key, so I let myself in quietly because I didn't want to wake anyone. Hannah's hands twisted in her lap. I heard Mrs. Rebecca on the phone in her office. The door was cracked open, and I could hear her talking to someone. She was saying things like, "How much longer?" and "The symptoms aren't strong enough, and I need this to look natural." I stood there frozen, listening, and I knew. I just knew something was terribly wrong. "Did you hear who she was talking to?" She said Dr. Webb at one point. That's all I caught before I ran out of the house. I was so scared, Mr. Thorne. I didn't know what to do. If I told you and you didn't believe me, Mrs. Rebecca would fire me and I'd lose my job. I'm a single mother. I have a daughter to feed. I couldn't afford to lose my income. But you told me anyway, because it got worse. 2 nights ago, I saw her give Miriam something from a brown bottle. I watched through the bedroom door, and Miriam started crying and saying it tasted bad, and Mrs. Rebecca kept smiling and telling her it was good for her. And then Miriam got so sick. Hannah's voice cracked. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Even if you fired me, even if I ended up homeless, I couldn't let that woman keep hurting that sweet little girl. Josiah reached over and squeezed Hannah's hand. You saved her life. You're a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just a mother who couldn't stand by and watch another mother hurt her child. Tears rolled down Hannah's cheeks. My daughter is the same age as Miriam. If someone was hurting her and nobody spoke up, I'd never forgive them. So I couldn't be that person. I had to speak up. They sat in silence for a moment, both looking at Miriam's peaceful sleeping face. What will happen to Mrs. Rebecca? Hannah finally asked. Prison. A long time. The evidence is overwhelming. Good. The word came out fierce and hard. Then Hannah stood up. I should go. I just wanted to see that Miriam was okay. Wait. Josiah stood too. You're not still cleaning houses, are you? After everything you've done, you shouldn't have to. I appreciate the thought, sir, but I like my work. It's honest and it keeps me busy. Hannah smiled slightly. Besides, I have 5 other clients who depend on me. At least let me pay you something. For what you did. For saving Miriam. You don't owe me anything, Mr. Thorne. I did what any decent person would do. But Josiah pulled out his checkbook anyway and wrote a number that made Hannah's eyes go wide when he handed it to her. Sir, this is too much. It's not enough. It could never be enough. You gave me back my daughter. Please. Take it. Use it for your daughter. For her education. For whatever you need. Hannah looked at the check with tears streaming down her face. Then she did something Josiah didn't expect. She hugged him. Just wrapped her arms around him and held on tight. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for believing me. Even if it took a while. After she left, Josiah sat back down beside Miriam's bed. His phone buzzed. Another news alert. He almost ignored it, but something made him look. Breaking. Rebecca Thorne's bail hearing scheduled for tomorrow. Defense claims evidence was planted. His blood ran cold. Bail hearing? They were actually considering letting her out? He called Detective Kimball immediately. I saw the news. Tell me she's not getting out. The bail hearing is just a formality. With the severity of the charges and the evidence we have, there's no way she'll make bail. But there's a chance? A pause. There's always a chance, Mr. Thorne. But you need to trust the system. The system? Josiah laughed bitterly. The system is letting her lawyer go on TV and call me an abuser. The system is giving her a platform to destroy my reputation while my daughter lies in a hospital bed recovering from being poisoned. I understand your frustration. Do you? Do you really? Because unless you've had someone you love try to kill your child and then smile about it, I don't think you understand anything. He hung up before she could respond. His hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking. A small voice from the bed made him freeze. Daddy, why are you yelling? Miriam was awake, looking at him with those big, confused eyes. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to wake you. I was just talking to someone. You sounded angry. I was a little angry. But not at you. Never at you. Miriam sat up slowly, wincing a little. She picked up the stuffed rabbit Hannah had left and hugged it to her chest. This is nice. Where did it come from? Miss Hannah made it for you. She came by to visit. I like Miss Hannah. She's always nice to me. Miriam looked down at the rabbit, her small fingers tracing its button eyes. Daddy, when can I go home? Home. What did that even mean anymore? The mansion was a crime scene. Every room held memories of Rebecca, of the life they'd built that turned out to be nothing but lies. We're going to find a new home, baby. A better one. Why? What's wrong with our house? This was it. The moment he'd been dreading. He couldn't keep lying to her. She deserved the truth. Josiah took a deep breath and sat on the edge of her bed, taking her small hand in his. Miriam, sweetheart, I need to tell you something important. Something that's going to be very hard to hear. Her eyes went wide. Is Mommy okay? The question was like a knife to his heart. Mommy is in trouble. She did something very bad, and now she has to face the consequences. What did she do? Josiah chose his words carefully, trying to find a way to explain the unexplainable. You know how you've been sick for a long time? How your tummy hurt and you kept throwing up and feeling weak? Miriam nodded. The doctors found out that you weren't really sick. Someone was giving you medicine that made you feel bad instead of making you feel better. Who would do that? That's mean. Yes, baby. It's very mean. He squeezed her hand gently. It was Mommy. Mommy was giving you bad medicine that made you sick. The silence that followed was the loudest sound Josiah had ever heard. Miriam just stared at him, her face completely blank, like her brain couldn't process what he'd just said. No, she finally whispered. Mommy wouldn't do that. Mommy loves me. I know this is confusing. You're lying. Her voice rose to a shout. Mommy wouldn't hurt me. She takes care of me. She reads me stories and makes my favorite foods and stays with me when I'm scared. Miriam, please. No. She threw the stuffed rabbit across the room. You're the mean one. You're always at work. You don't even know Mommy. She's nice and good and she loves me. Tears were streaming down her face now, and Josiah felt his own eyes burning. Baby, I know this is hard to believe. I want Mommy. I want my Mommy. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. Where is she? Why won't you let her come see me? A nurse rushed in, alerted by the noise. She looked at Miriam's monitors, which were beeping frantically as the little girl's heart rate spiked. Mr. Thorne, I need you to step outside. But, now please. He stumbled out of the room, his legs barely holding him up. Through the window, he watched the nurse try to calm Miriam down. But his daughter just kept crying, kept calling for her mother. Dr. Chin appeared beside him, her face grave. I heard what happened. We probably should have had a child psychologist here when you told her. You think? The words came out harsher than he intended. I'm sorry. I didn't know how else to do it. Children that age can't always process betrayal from a parent. Their whole worldview is built on the idea that their parents love them and protect them. When that foundation cracks, everything falls apart. So what do? We get her professional help. Therapy. Time. And you keep showing up, keep being there for her, even when she pushes you away. Dr. Chin put a hand on his shoulder. This is going to be a long road, Mr. Thorne. For both of you. Inside the room, Miriam had finally stopped screaming. She was just lying there now, staring at the ceiling, tears rolling down her cheeks. The nurse was talking to her softly, but Miriam didn't seem to hear. Josiah's phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize. I hope you're proud of yourself. You just broke that little girl's heart. Was it worth it? Rebecca. She must have gotten someone to send texts for her from outside. Before he could respond, another text came through. She'll never forgive you for taking her mother away. Every night for the rest of her life, she'll cry herself to sleep wishing I was there instead of you. He blocked the number with shaking hands. Then blocked 3 more numbers that started sending similar messages. It was like fighting a hydra, cut off one head and 2 more appeared. Mr. Thorne? A new voice made him turn. A woman in a gray pantsuit with kind eyes and a gentle smile stood beside him. I'm Dr. Sarah Michaels. I'm a child psychologist. Dr. Chin called me. I'd like to talk to Miriam, if that's all right with you. Please. Yes. I don't know what else to do. Dr. Michaels went into the room, and Josiah watched through the window as she sat down beside Miriam's bed. She didn't try to touch her or force conversation. She just sat there, presence calm and patient. After a long time, Miriam turned her head to look at her. Josiah couldn't hear what they were saying, but he saw his daughter's lips move. Saw Dr. Michaels nod and respond. Saw Miriam start crying again, but quieter this time. Sadder. The conversation went on for almost an hour. Finally, Dr. Michaels came out. How is she? Josiah asked immediately. Confused. Angry. Scared. All normal reactions to trauma. Dr. Michaels gestured toward a quiet corner of the hallway. Can we talk? They sat down in uncomfortable plastic chairs, and Dr. Michaels pulled out a notepad. Miriam is going to need intensive therapy. What her mother did wasn't just physical abuse. It was psychological torture. Every time Rebecca gave her poison while telling her it was medicine, while hugging her and saying she loved her, she was teaching Miriam that love and harm can come from the same person. That's a devastating lesson for a child to learn. Josiah felt sick. Can she recover from this? Yes. But it will take time. And she's going to need you to be patient with her. Right now, part of her still loves her mother. Still wants to believe that Rebecca is good, and this is all a misunderstanding. That's normal. That's her brain trying to protect itself from a truth too painful to accept. So I just let her believe her mother is innocent? No. But you don't force the truth on her either. You let her process it at her own pace. You answer her questions honestly when she asks them. You give her space to be angry at you, because you're the safe parent. The one who won't abandon her. She thinks I'm the bad guy. For now, maybe. But deep down, she knows you're the one who's staying. The one who's here. The one who showed up. Dr. Michaels closed her notepad. Children are remarkably resilient, Mr. Thorne. With proper support, Miriam can heal from this. But you need to heal too. Have you considered therapy for yourself? I don't need therapy. I need my daughter to be okay. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you want to be there for Miriam, you need to process your own trauma. What your wife did wasn't just an attack on your daughter. It was a betrayal of you too. Of your marriage. Of everything you thought you knew about your life. Josiah wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Because Dr. Michaels was right. He was barely holding himself together. The nightmares. The constant anxiety. The way his hands shook whenever he thought about Rebecca's smile as she'd confessed to poisoning Miriam. "I'll think about it," he finally said. "Good. In the meantime, I'd like to work with Miriam 3 times a week. Here at the hospital while she recovers, and then at my office once she's discharged. Whatever she needs. Money isn't an issue." Dr. Michaels stood up. "It's not about money, Mr. Thorne. It's about showing up. Being present. Doing the hard work of healing together." After she left, Josiah went back to Miriam's room. His daughter was awake, staring out the window at the city skyline. "Hey, baby," he said softly. "Can I come in?" She didn't answer, but she didn't tell him to leave either. He took that as permission and sat down in the chair beside her bed. They sat in silence for a long time. The machines beeped. The TV in the corner played some cartoon neither of them was watching. Outside the window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Dr. Michaels seems nice," he finally ventured. "She's okay. She said she wants to help you feel better. Would you like that?" Miriam turned to look at him, and the pain in her eyes made him want to weep. "Daddy, did Mommy really hurt me on purpose?" He wanted to lie. Wanted to protect her from this truth. But Dr. Michaels had said honesty was important. "Yes, baby. She did." "Why?" "I don't know. I wish I had a good answer for you, but I don't. Sometimes people do terrible things for reasons that don't make sense. But she's my mommy. Mommies aren't supposed to hurt their children." "You're right. They're not. And what Mommy did was very, very wrong." Miriam was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, "Are you going to hurt me too?" The question hit him like a physical blow. "No. Never. I would rather die than hurt you, Miriam. I love you more than anything in the whole world. But how do I know? How do I know you're telling the truth? Mommy said she loved me too, and she was lying." Josiah felt his heart breaking in his chest, but he forced himself to answer calmly. "You don't know. Not for sure. Not right now. But I'm going to prove it to you every single day. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be here. I'm going to listen when you're sad and hold you when you're scared and never, ever lie to you. And maybe after a while you'll start to trust me again. I know I haven't been the best daddy. I worked too much and missed too many bedtimes. But I'm going to do better. I promise." Miriam studied his face for a long moment, her young eyes searching for truth. "Okay," she finally whispered. "But I'm still mad at you." "That's okay. You're allowed to be mad. And I still love Mommy. Even if she hurt me. Is that bad?" Josiah's voice cracked as he answered. "No, baby. That's not bad. That just means you have a big, beautiful heart. And nobody can take that away from you." She reached out then, her small hand finding his. She didn't say anything else. Just held his hand and looked out the window. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't healing. But it was a start. The next morning, Josiah woke up in the chair beside Miriam's bed with a crick in his neck and his phone buzzing insistently. Detective Kimball's name flashed on the screen. "Hello, Mr. Thorne, I have news about the bail hearing. You need to sit down." His stomach dropped. "She got bail, didn't she? $10 million. Her parents posted it an hour ago. She's being released with an ankle monitor and strict conditions, but she's getting out." The room started spinning. "You said she wouldn't make bail. You said the charges were too serious." The judge disagreed. "I'm sorry, Mr. Thorne. We fought it as hard as we could." "When?" "She's being processed now. She'll be out by this afternoon." Josiah looked at his sleeping daughter, peaceful and innocent in her hospital bed. Rebecca was getting out. The monster who'd poisoned their child was going to be free. And somewhere in the city, she was probably already planning her next move. His phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. "See you soon, darling. We have so much to talk about. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth." Josiah's hands wouldn't stop shaking. He stood in the hospital parking garage, his phone pressed against his ear, listening to his lawyer explain things that didn't make sense. Words like constitutional rights and presumption of innocence and conditions of release floated past him like smoke. "She tried to murder our daughter," he said, cutting through the legal jargon. "She confessed. You heard the recording. How is she walking free?" The judge set conditions, Josiah. "She can't come within 500 feet of you or Miriam. She has to wear an ankle monitor. She surrendered her passport. And if she violates any of these terms, she goes straight back to jail. 500 feet? That's nothing. She could stand across the street from the hospital and wave at us. The prosecution is appealing the bail decision. But for now, this is what we have to work with. Josiah ended the call and leaned against his car, trying to breathe. The concrete walls of the parking garage seemed to press in on him. Every shadow looked like a threat. Every footstep echoed like someone approaching. Rebecca was out there somewhere. Free. Planning something. He knew her well enough to know she wouldn't just sit quietly in her parents' house wearing an ankle monitor. She always had a plan. Always 3 steps ahead. His phone rang again. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello. Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a whisper, distorted and barely audible. You took everything from me. Rebecca? You turned my own daughter against me. You painted me as a monster. But they'll see the truth soon enough. The truth is you poisoned Miriam. The truth is you're sick and twisted, and you belong in prison. A cold laugh. Oh, Josiah. You still don't understand, do you? This isn't over. This will never be over. Every single day for the rest of your life, you'll wonder when I'm coming. What I'm planning. Who I've convinced to help me. You'll never sleep peacefully again. If you come near my daughter. Your daughter? She's my daughter too. And she loves me. Deep down, she'll always love me more than you. Because I was there when you weren't. I sang her to sleep. I wiped her tears. I know every freckle on her face, every dream she's ever told me, every fear that keeps her up at night. What do you know, Josiah? You know how to make money. That's it. The line went dead. Josiah stood there in the dim parking garage, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. She was right about one thing. He had missed so much of Miriam's life. All those late nights at the office, all those business trips, all those moments he'd sacrificed for success. And Rebecca had been there for every single one of them. Poisoning his daughter. Playing the perfect mother. Building a relationship that even now, even after everything, Miriam couldn't fully let go of. He went back inside the hospital and found 2 security guards standing outside Miriam's room. Mr. Thorne, one of them nodded. Detective Kimball sent us. Nobody gets past this door without your explicit permission. Thank you. At least someone was taking this seriously. Inside the room, Miriam was sitting up in bed, coloring in a book Dr. Michaels had brought her. She looked up when he entered, and for a brief moment, Josiah saw fear flash across her face. Fear. Of him. Her own father. Hey, baby girl, he said softly, keeping his distance. What are you drawing? A house. She held up the page. It showed a simple square building with a triangular roof, stick figures standing in front of it. That's me and Mommy and you. We're all happy. Josiah's throat tightened. Even now, after everything, she was drawing them as a family. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Dr. Michaels said it's okay to wish things were different. She said it's okay to be sad about what happened. Dr. Michaels is very smart. Miriam set down her crayons and looked at him with those big, serious eyes. Daddy, when Mommy gets better, can she come home? The question hit him like a punch to the gut. She didn't understand. She thought this was temporary. That Rebecca was sick and could be cured, and then everything would go back to normal. He sat down carefully on the edge of her bed. Baby, Mommy isn't sick the way you were sick. What she did, there's no medicine to fix it. And she can't come home. Not ever. But I miss her. Tears welled up in Miriam's eyes. I know she hurt me, but I still miss her. Does that make me bad? No, sweetheart. That makes you human. It's okay to miss her. It's okay to love her even though she hurt you. Feelings don't have to make sense. Do you still love her? Josiah hesitated. The honest answer was complicated. He loved who he thought Rebecca was. The woman he'd married. The woman who didn't exist. I love who I thought she was, he finally said. But that person was pretending. The real Rebecca. I don't think I ever knew her. Miriam processed this in silence, her small fingers tracing the outline of the stick-figure family she'd drawn. What's going to happen to us? She asked quietly. We're going to be okay. We're going to find a new house, just you and me. Somewhere safe and happy. We're going to go to therapy and work through this together. And we're going to build a new life. A better one. Without Mommy? Without Mommy. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks, but she nodded. Okay. The word was so small, so brave, so heartbreaking that Josiah had to look away to keep from crying himself. A knock on the door interrupted the moment. Detective Kimball entered, her expression grim. Mr. Thorne, can I speak with you outside? Josiah kissed Miriam's forehead and stepped into the hallway with the detective. "We have a problem," she said immediately. "Rebecca's lawyer filed a motion for partial custody." "You're joking." "I wish I was. They're arguing that since she's innocent until proven guilty, and since the ankle monitor ensures she can't flee, she should be allowed supervised visits with Miriam." "Absolutely not. No. There's no way I'm letting that woman near my daughter." "I agree with you. The prosecution is fighting it hard. But her lawyer is good, and he's playing the public sympathy angle. Devoted mother wrongfully separated from her sick child. It's compelling to people who don't know the full story." Josiah wanted to scream, wanted to punch something, wanted to grab Miriam and run somewhere Rebecca could never find them. "What do I do?" "We're preparing for a custody hearing tomorrow morning. You need to be there. You need to tell the judge exactly why Rebecca can't have access to Miriam." "Tomorrow? I can't leave Miriam alone here. We'll have security with her the entire time. She'll be safe." "But Josiah, if you don't show up to that hearing, the judge might rule in Rebecca's favor by default." He closed his eyes and forced himself to think clearly. This was exactly what Rebecca wanted, to pull him in different directions, to make him choose between protecting Miriam physically and protecting her legally. "Okay, I'll be there." "What time?" 9 a.m. Courtroom 3B. Dress professionally. Don't lose your temper. Let the evidence speak for itself. After Detective Kimball left, Josiah made a phone call he'd been putting off for days. "Hello." His mother's voice was warm and familiar, and hearing it nearly broke him. "Mom, it's me." "Josiah." "Oh, sweetheart, I've been trying to reach you for days. I saw the news. Is it true? Did Rebecca really?" "Yes." The word came out choked. "Everything they're saying is true. She poisoned Miriam. She tried to kill her." His mother's gasp was audible even through the phone. "Oh, my baby. Oh, Josiah, I'm so sorry. How is Miriam?" "She's getting better. Physically, at least. But Mom, she's so confused. She still loves Rebecca. She still wants her mother." "Of course she does. She's 7 years old. Her whole world just got turned upside down." His mother's voice was steady now, strong. "What do you need?" "I can be on a plane tonight." "No, stay with Dad. He needs you." His father had been sick for months, fighting cancer with the same stubborn determination he'd shown his whole life. "But Mom, I need to ask you something. Did you ever suspect? Did you ever see anything that made you think Rebecca was wrong?" There was a long pause. Too long. "Mom, there was one time," she said quietly. "About 2 years ago. I came to visit and you were at work. Rebecca was giving Miriam her vitamins, and I noticed she was crushing them up and mixing them with juice. I asked why she did it that way instead of just having Miriam swallow them, and Rebecca got this look on her face. Just for a second. Something cold and angry. But then she smiled and said Miriam didn't like swallowing pills. It seemed reasonable, so I didn't think much of it. She was probably mixing poison in with the vitamins even back then." "Oh God." His mother's voice broke. "I should have paid more attention. I should have asked more questions. It's not your fault, Mom. She fooled everyone. That's what she does." They talked for a few more minutes, his mother offering comfort and support, promising to pray for Miriam, telling him he was a good father even though he didn't feel like one. When he hung up, he felt marginally better. At least he wasn't completely alone in this. He went back into Miriam's room to find her asleep, the coloring book open on her lap, a crayon still clutched in her small hand. He carefully removed it and set the book aside, then pulled the blanket up around her shoulders. She looked so peaceful when she slept, like a normal kid having normal dreams. But Josiah knew better. Dr. Michaels had told him Miriam was having nightmares. Dreams where she was being chased. Dreams where she couldn't breathe. Dreams where her mother's face melted into something monstrous. His phone buzzed. A text from Hannah. "Mr. Thorne, I saw on the news that Mrs. Rebecca got bail. Please be careful. If you need anything at all, please call me." He typed back, "Thank you, Hannah. That means more than you know." Another text came through immediately. "I've been praying for Miriam every day. She's a strong little girl. She's going to be okay. I hope you're right. I know I'm right. And you're a good father. Don't let anyone tell you different." Josiah stared at those words for a long time. A good father. Was he? Good fathers didn't miss bedtime stories because of board meetings. Good fathers didn't let their wives slowly poison their daughters for months without noticing. But maybe good fathers also showed up. Fought for their kids. Did the hard work of healing. Maybe it wasn't too late to become the father Miriam deserved. The night stretched on. Josiah dozed fitfully in the chair beside Miriam's bed, waking at every sound, every footstep in the hallway, every beep of the machines monitoring her vitals. Around 3 a.m, Miriam woke up screaming. No! No! Stop! It hurts! Josiah was at her side instantly, gathering her into his arms. Shh, baby, it's okay. You're safe. It's just a dream. She clung to him, her small body shaking with sobs. She was giving me the bad medicine again. I could taste it. It was so real, Daddy. It was just a nightmare. You're safe now. Nobody is giving you bad medicine anymore. Promise. I promise. She buried her face in his chest, and he held her while she cried, rocking her gently the way he used to when she was a baby. Eventually, her sobs quieted to hiccups, and then to steady breathing. Daddy. Yes, sweetheart. Can you sing me the song? The one you used to sing when I was little. Josiah's mind went blank. He tried to remember, but there were so many missed moments, so many bedtimes he'd skipped. I don't remember which song, baby. The one about the mockingbird. Mommy sings it sometimes too, but I like it better when you sing it. Something twisted in his chest. She was giving him a chance, asking him to give her something Rebecca couldn't take away. He cleared his throat and started singing, his voice rough and uncertain at first, then growing stronger. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Daddy's gonna buy you a mockingbird. Miriam relaxed against him, her breathing evening out as he sang. By the time he reached the last verse, she was asleep again. He held her for a long time after that, afraid to put her down, afraid to let go. This fragile, brave little person who'd survived something no child should have to survive. I'm so sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. But I'm here now. I'm here, and I'm not leaving. Not ever again. The sun rose slowly, painting the hospital room in shades of gold and pink. Josiah finally laid Miriam back down on her bed and stood up, his back aching from hours in the uncomfortable chair. He had 3 hours until the custody hearing. 3 hours to prepare himself to face Rebecca in court. 3 hours to find the words to convince a judge that the woman he'd once loved more than life itself was too dangerous to be near their daughter. He showered in the tiny hospital bathroom, changed into the suit his assistant had brought him yesterday, and tried to make himself look like a man in control instead of a man falling apart. At 8:30, Officer Williams arrived to drive him to the courthouse. Miriam will be fine, the young officer assured him. We've got 2 guards on her door, and Dr. Chin knows to call you immediately if anything changes. Josiah kissed his sleeping daughter's forehead one more time, whispered, I love you, and left. The courthouse was an imposing stone building downtown, all marble columns and serious faces. Josiah's lawyer, Marcus, met him on the steps. Ready? Marcus asked. No, but let's do this anyway. They walked through security, past reporters shouting questions that Josiah ignored, and into a wood-paneled courtroom that smelled like old books and stale air. And there, sitting at the defendant's table with her expensive lawyer, was Rebecca. She looked different out of the orange jumpsuit. She wore a simple blue dress, minimal makeup, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked like a schoolteacher, like someone's kind aunt, like anything except a woman who'd poisoned her own child. When she saw Josiah, she smiled. That same warm, beautiful smile that had made him fall in love with her 7 years ago. It made his skin crawl. All rise, the bailiff announced. The Honorable Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. An older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes took the bench. She looked at the papers in front of her, then at Rebecca, then at Josiah. This is a hearing regarding temporary custody and visitation for the minor child Miriam Thorne. I've reviewed the evidence submitted by both parties. This is highly unusual given the criminal charges pending against Mrs. Thorne. Rebecca's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client is presumed innocent. The charges against her are based entirely on circumstantial evidence and coerced testimony. Mrs. Thorne is a devoted mother who has been wrongfully separated from her daughter during a medical crisis. Wrongfully? Judge Morrison's eyebrow arched. Mr. Castellano, there are medical records showing arsenic poisoning. There are witness statements. There's physical evidence. All of which can be explained, Your Honor. The arsenic could have come from environmental sources. The witness, a disgruntled employee, has motivation to lie. And the so-called confession was made under extreme duress after my client had been detained for hours without proper legal representation. Josiah's hands clenched into fists under the table. Every word out of that lawyer's mouth was a lie, but he was saying it so smoothly, so confidently. "Mr. Thorne," Judge Morrison said, turning to him, "I'd like to hear from you. In your own words, why do you believe your daughter should not have contact with her mother?" Josiah stood up, his legs shaking. "Your Honor, my wife poisoned our daughter for 4 months. She kept detailed notes about dosages. She smiled while she did it. And when she got caught, she told me she did it for money, so she could inherit Miriam's trust fund and my estate if anything happened to us. That's not a mother. That's a predator." Rebecca's lawyer jumped up. "Objection. That's inflammatory, Anne." "Sit down, Mr. Castellano," Judge Morrison said sharply. "Mr. Thorne is answering my question." She looked back at Josiah. "Continue. My daughter is in the hospital right now recovering from arsenic poisoning. She's 7 years old. She has nightmares. She's confused and scared, and she doesn't understand why her mother would hurt her. If you let Rebecca have contact with Miriam, even supervised contact, you're telling my daughter that what her mother did wasn't that bad. That it's forgivable. And Your Honor, some things aren't forgivable." The courtroom was silent. Judge Morrison looked at Rebecca. "Mrs. Thorne, do you have anything to say?" Rebecca stood up gracefully, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue even though Josiah couldn't see any actual tears. "Your Honor, I love my daughter more than life itself. I would never, ever hurt her. My husband is a good man, but he's been manipulated by people who want to destroy our family. I just want a chance to see Miriam, to tell her I love her, to let her know her mother didn't abandon her. It was a good performance. Josiah had to give her that. The way her voice broke on abandon. The way she looked at the judge with those innocent green eyes." Judge Morrison studied Rebecca for a long moment. "Mrs. Thorne, I've been a judge for 23 years. I've seen a lot of people stand in this courtroom and lie to me. Some of them are very good at it." She paused. "You're very good at it." Rebecca's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. "Based on the evidence presented, I'm denying your request for visitation. Full custody remains with Mr. Thorne. Mrs. Thorne, you are to have no contact with the minor child until your criminal trial concludes. If you violate this order, your bail will be revoked immediately. Do you understand?" The mask dropped. For just a moment, Josiah saw pure rage flash across Rebecca's face. Then she collected herself and nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. This hearing is adjourned." Josiah's knees nearly gave out with relief. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder, already talking about next steps and legal strategies, but Josiah barely heard him. He'd won. Miriam was safe. As he walked past Rebecca's table toward the exit, she reached out and grabbed his wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "This changes nothing," she hissed under her breath. "She's still my daughter, and I will see her again. Let go of me. You can't keep us apart forever. Eventually, you'll slip up. You'll get complacent. And when you do, I'll be there." Josiah yanked his arm away and kept walking, his heart pounding, Rebecca's words following him out of the courtroom and into the bright afternoon sunshine. Officer Williams was waiting to drive him back to the hospital. Josiah climbed into the car, pulled out his phone, and called Miriam's room. Dr. Chen answered. "Mr. Thorne, is everything okay?" "I won." The judge denied Rebecca's visitation request. "That's wonderful news. Miriam will be so relieved. Can I talk to her?" "Of course." One moment. A rustling sound, then his daughter's voice. "Daddy? Hey, baby girl. I have good news. Mommy isn't going to be able to visit you. The judge said you don't have to see her unless you want to." Silence on the other end. "Miriam? Are you there? Is that good news?" Her voice was small and confused. I thought maybe I wanted to see her. Just once. To ask her why." Josiah's heart broke all over again. "Sweetheart, I understand. But right now it's not safe. Maybe someday, when you're older, you'll get that chance. But for now, we need to focus on you getting better." Okay. She didn't sound convinced. "I'm coming back right now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. We can watch movies and eat popsicles, and I'll tell you a story. How does that sound?" "Okay." A pause. "Daddy, I love you." The words hit him like a gift he didn't deserve. "I love you too, baby. So much. More than you'll ever know." As the car pulled away from the courthouse, Josiah looked out the window at the city passing by. Somewhere out there, Rebecca was planning her next move. Somewhere out there, danger was waiting. But right now, in this moment, his daughter was safe. She'd said she loved him. And maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. The car stopped at a red light, and Josiah saw his reflection in the window. He looked tired, older than his 35 years, but also determined. Rebecca had underestimated him. She'd thought he was just a distracted businessman who wouldn't fight for his daughter. She was wrong, and he was going to spend every day for the rest of his life proving just how wrong she was. The light turned green, and they drove on toward the hospital, toward Miriam, toward whatever came next. Together. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth.